Councilmember Karen,
Here.
Dumbuya,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Van Sluis,
Here.
Spooner,
Here.
Steele,
Here.
Mayor Bracek.
Here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Republic for which it stands.
Are there any changes or corrections that need to be made to the agenda? Seeing none, I would take a motion and a second to approve.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Dumbia, seconded by Councilmember Teal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Move on to presentations, introductions. Introduction of Housing and Redevelopment Executive Director Tom Furman.
Mayor and Council, I'm very pleased to introduce you to Tom Furman. He's our new HRA Executive Director, and many of you know we've had a vacancy there for quite some time in housing, and we're super pleased to have somebody with a great deal of experience. I'll let Tom tell you a little bit more about himself and his background.
Sure, thanks.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So yeah, my name is Tom Furman. I'm most recently I've been living in Duluth for the last 19 years. I've been the executive director of Two Harbors HRA for the last 6 years. Prior to that, I worked at Duluth Housing as manager of the buildings and a variety of other kind of odds and ends of jobs. But when you're in housing, you have to have a lot of hats. So since then, I'll tell you, my wife is really looking forward to being able to move to Faribault, where she gets an extra couple months of growing season. So this is exciting. So I'm thrilled to be here, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, I'll let you guys get to business.
All right, thank you and welcome to the team.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to approving the minutes of the October 22nd, 2024 City Council meeting and the November 6th, 2024 Special City Council meeting. Anybody have any changes or corrections that need to be made? Seeing none, I take a motion in a second.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Ross.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dumia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I didn't see anything on the clipboard when we were up there earlier, so there's no request to be heard. Move on to consent agenda items 6A through 6M. Anybody have anything they want to pull for discussion? Lots of things in there. Closing of streets for Winterfest, bingo.
Mayor Bracek.
Councilmember Ross.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items 6A through 6M.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Ross, second by Councilmember Van Sluis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. We have no public hearings tonight. We'll move on to items for discussion. Resolution 2024-196, deny variance at 15 3rd Avenue Southwest. Over to Harry.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I do have a presentation. I'll see if maybe it comes up here at some point while I'm speaking, but yeah, just to put it simply, so in between the last time that we saw this at a regular council meeting, which was back in September, and today, we've had a few different discussions with the applicant and have sort of worked through options in order to allow the applicant to be able to operate under a TCO and have some time in order to bring some of the parts of the site that are non-compliant into full compliance at the end of the 9 months is what I believe we gave him as a part of a development agreement. And so speaking to the applicant is still interested in the variances and has not withdrawn them. So we do still have to make a decision. The deadline for a decision by City Council is December the 10th. So it's coming up here. We didn't want to lose it at all within the number of other things that we're doing here at the city. So I'm bringing it back forward in order to get a sort of a decision from council tonight or some sort of idea about if we are going to allow the variances, how we might be able to move forward. The applicant has actually changed their request since I notified them that, hey, we're taking this back. He's notified us that he's changing it to 5 feet instead of a 0-foot setback for parking. The applicant has cited a few different things, primarily that he has some potential uses that might use the building, and so he's thinking about those uses and what their parking requirements might be. That might result in X amount of spaces on the property, and so he might need 5 feet in order to make another row of parking work. I think generally, at least from staff's perspective and from the criteria for a variance, it's really hard for us to see that there's a practical hardship here without understanding exactly what uses are coming onto the property. And so applying the appropriate ratios and really trying to figure out, okay, if we're trying to accommodate all these uses and a minimum number of parking spaces for all the businesses that might be on site, what is the requirement for parking spaces? The applicant hasn't provided that. They haven't provided any sort of details on the particular uses or what the requirements might be. So I feel like we're working with what might be considered half of the picture here. We just don't have the details that we need to determine that there's a practical difficulty here. The applicant is also still looking for the curb variance. The criteria for that are the same as they were before in your previous packets. So there are just some updates within the memo in order to reflect this new 5-foot setback request. But other than that, everything is pretty much the same. Staff generally were not recommending in favor of these variances. So the resolution reflects that. So we're recommending that you approve the resolution which would deny the variances. If there is a case tonight where the City Council might be willing to grant a variance for either one or two of these things, what we would recommend is that you would table the discussion to allow staff to bring forward a different resolution. That if we're going to do that, just also provide me some feedback.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis. Any questions for staff on this item? Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Davis, now, am I correct in that if we deny these variances, he can't bring them back for a certain period of time?
Councilmember Ross, that is correct. I think that there's a cooling off period of about a year. Now, to caveat that, if he changes the variances that he's requesting substantially, there might be a little bit of, well, what is substantially? I don't know yet, I suppose. But if it's a serious change of the request, I think at that point, we'd be more than happy to bring it back through the process to get another decision. But if it's going to be the exact same thing, then no.
So not saying that I would favor this, but I'm just going to use this as an example. So if we're denying the 0-foot setback, later he brings a 5-foot, that would probably seem substantial to me.
Yes. Yeah, it's a different request. I think in some ways I would be willing to see this as, well, what is the reasoning? If we can establish that there is a practical difficulty, I think that really would change the request. So I think that as staff, I'm more than happy to kind of work with the applicant to figure that out.
I'm just trying to make sure that, there's a lot of different things he's asking for. And so if we kind of give a blanket no and he can't bring back within a year, I don't want to pigeonhole him any worse than he already is. So, but I'll let the chime in here.
My question is, he stated in his notes that he may have somebody that's looking at leasing the church. So if he leases the church and he's using the school for a different business purpose, does he have to have separate parking stalls for both of those, or can he overlap, being that their times are going to be different in the most aspect?
Good question, Mayor. So we do have some allowances within our code for shared parking between uses that are not conflicting in terms of when they're open or in terms of intensity. So, you can think of a strip mall where there are different businesses that are open, potentially at different times, but you might have a tax accountant next to a restaurant, and they're going to need very different levels of service. I think overall, what we would look at is there enough parking for each of these uses if they were in, and work back from there. The allowances within our code, like I said, if it's different timing, one's during the day, one's more in the evening, we're willing to, at least within code, work with the applicant.
I saw in his notes there that he said he's looking at the 5 foot, but he may come back for another variance for the number of stalls, and I would just prefer to get this done once.
Just as
Or
a
concerns.
reminder, I believe that the city attorney had said that if he's talking about a use of any of the other buildings on the property, it's going to require a PUD.
Correct.
So that's where there's more work than would need to be done than just bringing back sort of individual variances as well.
Right. I'm just trying to get a basis for this opportunity. The PUD is I'm wishing it was signed already so that we could progress down that road, but we're not there. So I think the denial of the variance, if you don't want to wait till December 10th, is probably the correct option right now. Thoughts?
I think we've given him plenty of opportunity. That's fine, but gotta.
Francis?
Did the applicant sign the developers agreement?
The applicant has not yet signed the development agreement, and that is a requirement in order to get a building permit. Now, the applicant is currently working through a building permit. I think it's kind of up to the applicant whether they want to enter that development agreement or not.
All right, if there's no further questions, I need somebody to make a motion in a second on this item. 2024-196.
Mayor Voracek,
Councilmember Van Sloos,
I make a motion to approve resolution 2024-196,
denying the variance.
denying the variance.
Okay. Seconded by Councilmember Karen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The denial is approved. Move on to resolution 2024-20, approved new off-sale liquor license. I'll let Ms. Schletka pronounce that.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Bapa Kruppa MNV2 LLC, doing business as Southside Liquor and Tobacco, which will be located at 401 10th Street Southwest, has applied for an off-sale intoxicating liquor license. Faribault. They've paid all their required fees, all their required paperwork. Their background check is currently in process department, as well as liquor liability, comp insurance with our attorney. So if you approve this tonight, the application will be forwarded on to the Gambling Enforcement
Do you have anything, Ms. Schletka? Councilmember Van Sloos?
Is this a new owner of the business?
Yes, I believe so.
Always one of our mysteries. We don't get all the details. It's enough to.
Mayor Voracek,
Councilmember Ross.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-220.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Ross, seconded by Councilmember Teal. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one passes. We have no bids tonight. Boards, commission reports, announcements, or project updates. Anybody got anything? Okay. Then with that, I will take a motion and a second to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Councilmember Dumbia, seconded by Councilmember Karen, because she's running out of Tuesdays. Not. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?